Imagine having a tireless, creative assistant right there with you, ready to brainstorm lesson plans, maybe generate ideas, even draft materials instantly.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like science fiction, doesn't it?
It really does. But AI tools, specifically things like ChatGPT, well, they're opening up these possibilities for teachers like you today.
And really, at its heart, talking to an AI like ChatGPT just starts with one thing, a prompt.
A prompt.
Yeah, think of it like the initial nudge, the first instruction that kind of sets everything else in motion for the conversation you're about to have. It's the starting point, what you put in.
Exactly. And in this deep dive, we've been sorting through, well, a whole stack of sources, articles, guides on effective prompting, pieces on AI capabilities.
Lots of reading.
Lots of reading, all specifically curated to give you, the teacher, practical, really easy to apply tips and tricks for actually using ChatGPT effectively day to day.
Our goal here is really just to cut through some of the noise, right?
Right.
And give you actionable ideas.
Absolutely. Impressive tools you can start using, maybe even right away, to save time and honestly boost creativity.
So before we get into the how-to, maybe we should just clarify, what is a prompt in this context?
Yeah.
And why is this simple idea so fundamental, especially for educators?
Right. Well, in the simplest terms, a prompt is just that initial text or instruction you give to a conversational AI tool like ChatGPT.
So what you type in the box.
Basically, yeah, is what you put in that tells the AI what you're looking for, the kind of response you hope to get. It sets the whole direction, the scope of the dialogue.
Right. And the AI itself, it's a large language model. You can kind of think of it as a super sophisticated pattern matching machine.
Okay.
It's been trained on just vast amounts of text data, and it predicts the most, let's say, statistically likely next word or sequence of words based on all those patterns it learned.
So it's predicting, not thinking.
Pretty much. Your prompt is essentially the instruction manual you hand it. It guides that powerful prediction engine towards something specifically useful for your purpose. It's not magic. It's directing a very complex tool.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. It's predicting based on patterns, and the prompt gives it the pattern to follow for you. So why is this skill then, this ability to craft a good prompt, why is that so incredibly key for teachers specifically?
Because crafting clear, specific prompts, well, that's the difference. It's the difference between getting a generic, maybe useless response and actually unlocking the AI's potential as a truly powerful creative assistant.
Ah, okay.
It's the secret to directing its huge capability. You can use it to draft that, tricky email to parents.
That would be useful.
Right. Or compose explanations of complex topics, maybe tailored for different student levels, generate a list of 20 fresh ideas for a project, or even write materials in a very specific style. It's all about turning that vast data set into something that serves your specific needs in the classroom, saving precious time, sparking new ideas.
That sounds incredibly useful. So how do we actually get good at writing these prompts? It sounds like it's less about knowing AI jargon and more about just clear communication.
Precisely. And our sources offer some really clear, actionable strategies. It's a bit of an art, maybe, but there's definitely some science to it, too.
Okay.
The first core strategy, start with action words.
Action words like verbs from English class. What does that mean here?
Exactly like verbs. Instead of typing something vague like, say, information on lesson plans, which is just a noun phrase,
Right.
start your prompt with a strong verb, one that tells the AI the task you want performed. Words like create, write, explain, generate, design, summarize, analyze.
So more direct.
Much more direct. So you'd say create a lesson plan for, or generate 5 questions about. You're giving it a clear command right from the start.
Okay, so give it a clear job. Makes sense. What's next?
Next, and this one's crucial for tailoring the output, add context.
Context, meaning like tell it the situation, the background.
Yes, exactly. Provide that background info. Who is this for? Your principal. High school students, second graders.
Right. Big difference.
Huge difference. What subject is this for? What are the specific learning objectives you're trying to meet with this material? The more relevant context you give the AI, the better it can tailor its response to be truly relevant and useful to you.
Okay, so action word tells it what to do. Context tells it for whom and why. Got it. What about making sure it's not too fuzzy?
That leads straight to the third strategy. Be clear and specific.
Specificity.
Okay.
That feels related to context, but maybe a bit different.
It is, yeah. Context is kind of the background, the setting. Specificity is detailing exactly what you want within that setting.
Ah, okay.
So if you're asking for a story, don't just say, write a story. That's too broad. Specify the topic, maybe the main character, the target age group, even the theme or specific plot points you need included.
Because ambiguity is the enemy here.
Totally. Ambiguity leads to generic output. You need to state precisely what outcome you're looking for.
That makes sense. If you're vague, you get a vague result. What if you have a particular format in mind? Like, you know how you structure your activity sheets normally?
Excellent point. Strategy number 4, use examples.
Examples! How does that work? Do I just copy and paste something into the prompt?
Pretty much, yeah. If you have a specific style or format or even a tone you want it to mimic.
Like for assessment questions?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Or how you phrase learning objectives or the tone you use in emails to parents, you can actually include an example right there in your prompt.
Really?
Yeah, you might say something like, write a brief explanation of concept in the style of the following example, and then just paste a paragraph of text you like. Examples work incredibly well because the AI is fundamentally a pattern matching machine.
That's powerful. It learns from your example almost instantly. And I suppose you also need to tell it how much to write, like length.
Absolutely. Strategy 5,
Yeah.
specify length.
Simple, but I bet it gets overlooked a lot.
Very often.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need a one-sentence definition, a paragraph explanation, maybe a bulleted list, a detailed outline, or a full-page script?
Right.
Tell the AI the approximate length or the format you're aiming for. It stops you getting, buried in text or disappointed by just a couple of lines.
Okay, so quick check. Action word, context, specificity, examples for style, and length. Is that it? Any other big ones?
One more that really impacts the result. Clarify the tone.
Tone. Like the feel of the writing. Formal, informal.
Exactly. Describe the desired tone. Should it be formal? Informal, engaging, encouraging, simple, academic, maybe even humorous, depending on the task.
So the language fits the situation.
Precisely. Whether it's for your students, your colleagues, or just planning notes for yourself, the tone matters.
Okay, so to recap those core strategies, start with action words, add context, be clear and specific, use examples, specify length, and clarify the tone. It really sounds like you're being a very precise director for this AI tool.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, it's dynamic, it's iterative.
Meaning you can try again if it doesn't work first time.
Absolutely. Try a prompt, look at the result, and then tweak your prompt. Refine your instructions to get closer to what you actually need. Experiment.
Okay, this is great. Let's get into the really practical stuff now. This is where those tips and tricks from the sources can, really come alive for teachers. Where can we start applying these strategies in the classroom? What are some examples?
Okay, let's start with something absolutely central to teaching. Lesson planning and content generation.
Right, a big time sink for many teachers. What kinds of prompts work well here?
Well, you could use a prompt like, create a detailed lesson plan for teaching maybe a complex topic, like the water cycle, to say, fourth graders. Include engaging activities, discussion questions, and assessment methods.
You see how that uses the action word create, adds context.
Exactly. Topic, age group, the components you want included.
That alone could save so much time just getting a draft structure.
Right. Or maybe you need smaller pieces. You could try. Develop a series of micro-learning modules on a broad topic, maybe Renaissance art, with each module being a 5-minute lesson with a clear objective and a quick assessment.
Oh, I like that. Specifying the format, the length.
Yep, and the key components. Really breaks down big units.
Incredible. Okay, what about making learning more interactive? Generating ideas for activities.
Yes. Activity and engagement design. This is where you can really let the AI's sort of creativity shine.
Ooh, I like the sound of this. Give me some ideas. What did the sources suggest?
Okay, how about this? Design a gamified learning system for, let's say, algebra that incorporates elements of competition, rewards, and progress tracking.
Gamification. Nice.
Or for fostering deeper thinking, develop a series of thought-provoking questions to spark a Socratic seminar on maybe a controversial topic, like the ethics of AI. Aim for questions that encourage critical analysis and different viewpoints.
Those are really powerful prompts for pushing student thinking beyond just recall.
Definitely. Or you could get creative with explanations. Write a creative story that explains a scientific concept like photosynthesis in a way that's engaging and easy to understand for, say, 7th graders. Include analogies and real-world examples.
Perfect for making those tricky concepts more accessible. I could use that.
Couldn't we all? Or, for something really immersive, design an escape room-style educational experience for maybe U.S. history. Include puzzles that require knowledge of a specific historical period.
Wow, an escape room. That sparks so many ideas. What about group work? Peer teaching?
Yep, cover 2. Create a peer teaching activity for a topic like understanding fractions. Outline how students can teach each other and suggest ways to assess both the student teachers and the learners.
That's really
The
practical.
benefit across all of these is just quickly generating innovative ideas, catering to different learning styles, keeping students engaged. It's a great starting point.
These are fantastic, really concrete examples. How else can teachers leverage this? What other areas?
Well, meeting diverse student needs is always a huge challenge, right?
Absolutely. Differentiation takes time.
So that leads us to support, differentiation, and assessment.
Okay, what kind of prompts could help a teacher here?
Think along these lines. Develop a differentiated instruction plan for teaching, say, reading comprehension to a class with diverse learning needs. Include modifications for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners.
See, you're giving it the task. Develop a plan, the context.
Subject, diverse needs.
And the specifics include those modifications. That could be a massive time saver for planning individual support.
Huge. Or even for something like memory aids. Create a mnemonic device or maybe a memory palace to help high school students remember a specific list, like the order of planets or the 7 deadly sins.
Ah, clever memory palaces. And for evaluation, like rubrics?
Definitely. Design a rubric for assessing a type of assignment, maybe a science lab report in biology. Include clear criteria for different performance levels, like exceeds, meets, developing.
Very useful.
Prompts like these just help tailor instruction and assessment more efficiently, meeting those varied student needs without starting from scratch every time.
These examples really drive home how applying those simple prompting strategies we talked about translates directly into practical tools for daily teaching tasks. Okay, what's one more, maybe slightly different trick you came across?
Yeah, one technique that's quite powerful is utilizing role-playing.
Role-playing, I mean like asking the AI to pretend it's someone else.
Exactly. You can start your prompt with phrases like, act as a biology teacher, or assume the role of an economics professor,
Oh, interesting.
or even respond as if you are a 5th grade student who is struggling with fractions.
Whoa.
This prompts the AI to deliver explanations or content or even questions from that specific perspective, using the kind of language they might use, focusing on relevant concepts from that viewpoint.
That's brilliant. You could get explanations tailored perfectly for student levels or explore concepts from different academic angles, even maybe anticipate student questions or misunderstandings by having it act like a student.
It really gives the output a specific voice and expertise or lack thereof if you ask it to be a struggling student. It can be incredibly useful for preparing materials or just understanding different perspectives on a topic.
These practical tips are fantastic. Definitely actionable things teachers listening can try out.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that the AI isn't thinking like a human, it's predicting.
Right.
What's important for readers to understand about the AI's fundamental nature? Why do these prompts work, but also maybe sometimes don't work quite as expected?
That's a really critical point to grasp. As powerful as AI like ChatGPT seems, it's not conscious. It's not thinking or understanding in the human sense. It's a statistical model, trained on a truly massive data set, and it's essentially imitating the language patterns it learned from that data. Think of it less like intelligence and more like incredibly sophisticated pattern recognition and prediction.
So it's just predicting the next word again and again to build the response.
In a simplified way, yes. For complex tasks, it works through a sequence of what are called tokens, small units of text, basically words or parts of words.
Tokens, okay.
And this is why, for really complex tasks like multi-step problems or detailed planning, you often get better results if you ask it to break down its process. Ask it to show its steps or generate intermediate results within the prompt.
Ah, so you're helping it build the answer step by step.
Exactly. You're guiding its predictions along a logical path, because making one huge complex leap in a single prediction is actually very difficult for the model. It's easier to predict the next small step accurately.
That sheds some light on why asking it to show its work on a math problem can sometimes make it more accurate.
Precisely. And because it's a statistical model focused purely on patterns, it can have what one of our sources called a Swiss cheese capability.
Swiss cheese, meaning holes in it.
Kind of. It might be absolutely brilliant at, say, analyzing complex literature themes, but then it might struggle with simple arithmetic or confidently state something that's just plain factually wrong.
Yeah, the unexpected errors. What about the times it just, well, makes things up entirely?
Yes, the famous or infamous phenomenon of hallucinations.
Hallucinations.
The AI can generate output that sounds completely plausible, totally confident, based on the patterns it's learned, but it's entirely false, made up.
But it's not lying on purpose.
No, not in the human sense. It's just generating the most statistically likely sequence of words based on its training data. Even if that sequence doesn't actually correspond to verifiable facts in the real world,
Yeah.
the pattern sounds right, so it outputs it.
And why does understanding this fundamental nature, the statistics, the tokens, the Swiss cheese, the hallucinations, why does that matter so much for you as a teacher using this tool?
Because it underlines the fact that you must always review and verify the AI's output.
Mm.
Always.
Especially for facts.
Especially for factual content, yes. But also for critical lesson components or communications that need to be absolutely accurate, or really anything you plan to present directly to students.
So it's an assistant, not a replacement.
Exactly. It is a powerful tool to assist your expertise, to spark ideas, to save time on drafting. But it absolutely does not replace your professional judgment. It doesn't replace your understanding of your specific students or the fundamental need for accuracy. Think of it like that. Incredibly fast, sometimes brilliant assistant.
Who sometimes needs a very thorough fact check before anything goes public.
You got it. That's the perfect analogy.
Okay, that's a crucial reminder. So just to wrap up where we've been in this deep dive, we've unpacked what prompts are, explored how to craft them effectively, using those simple but powerful strategies, starting with action words, adding context, being specific, using examples, length, tone.
All those key ingredients.
Right. And we looked at numerous practical, really easy to apply examples you can use, right away for lesson planning, activities, differentiation, assessment, even role playing.
Lots of actionable stuff.
And importantly, we also touched on understanding the AI's underlying nature, the statistics, the limitations like hallucinations, so you can use it more effectively and critically more responsibly.
Yeah, these tools really do offer incredible potential. They can save you significant time, reduce that heavy workload on drafting and brainstorming, and honestly spark entirely new creative ideas in your teaching practice.
They can generate outlines, draft emails, brainstorm activities,
Yeah.
all based on the vast patterns they've learned from the data.
And this is the big takeaway, perhaps.
Considering AI is fundamentally this statistical limitation, right? Designed to predict the next likely token based on examples it was shown. Here's something for you to consider as you integrate these tools. How does using this technology complement the unique, deeply human aspects of teaching?
Mhm.
The parts that extend far beyond predictable patterns and statistical probabilities. We're talking about building genuine relationships with students,
The connection.
understanding those subtle emotional nuances in the classroom, adapting spontaneously in the moment, fostering that spark of genuine curiosity, and really connecting with each individual learner. What unique value do you, the human teacher, bring to the classroom that AI, at least in its current form, simply cannot replicate?